Haha, hi, it's me, Arnold. You're about to watch a review for my new movie, Terminator Genesys. Ah. Terminator Genesys.
I have no clue why I said it like that. But Terminator Genesys, though, the fifth film in the franchise. This film stars Jai Courtney, Emilia Clarke, and, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Arnold.
Arnold, I'm back.
Don't leave, please. Terminator Genesys, this is the fifth film in the franchise, and is this the film we've been waiting for? Is this the sequel to T2, the big comeback? No, it sadly isn't. This film was a big disappointment. I'm a huge fan of the Terminator films. I owned them on Blu-ray, and I watch these films several times a year. These are classics. At least the first two films. The first two films by James Cameron are movies that I can watch over and over again. The third film, pretty disappointing. The fourth film is alright. It's a lot better than the third film. And I was hoping that this film would have been a follow-up to Salvation. You know, the future war. Even if it was going to be a reboot, I was hoping that we were going to see a little bit more into the war. Instead, we're going back to the whole time travel thing again, which I feel has been done to death and very unnecessary. Now, before I get into the review, I want to tell you guys that there's going to be a little bit of spoilers on this review. If you haven't seen the film, please leave, watch the movie, and come back. The first half of this review is going to be spoiler-free, so I will tell you beforehand if there's going to be any spoilers. So, what's the movie about? This film is technically a quasi-sequel to the first two films, but it rewrites the history of those first two films. In this version, Kyle Reese has been sent back in time. They had found the time travel capsule thingamajig that will send Kyle Reese to 1984 to protect Sarah Connor. However, in this new timeline, things have changed. Sarah Connor is no longer a waitress. She's no longer this shy, innocent girl who has no idea of what's going on. She's actually the badass that we know in Terminator 2. And she has been raised by a T-800, which we never really find out where he comes from, and we'll get to that in a little bit, which I found kind of ridiculous. But in this version, Kyle Reese is a little confused because the past, where he's going to, is very different. So, initially the film starts off pretty well. It starts off, we see him getting there, we see a little bit of nods to the original first film, but then things start to go kind of pretty much downhill. Very, very downhill. And here's where I'm going to be mentioning spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie, please watch the movie and come back. This movie was very confusing and convoluted for no real reason. We're shown Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor trying to prevent Judgment Day from ever happening. And if you have not seen the trailer, in the trailer we find out that John Connor is somehow Skynet. He has been fused together and he has been turned into an entity, an extension of Skynet. And the twist, had it been hidden from the trailers and had it been presented in a different way, it could have been pretty good. It could have been an actual reveal, but sadly it isn't. It feels like they're running out of ideas and they really want to present something that's edgy and new, when it really isn't. And this movie really did not live up to the hype. And I think the problem with this film was the marketing. The marketing of this film showed way too much. In all the trailers, you were seeing pretty much the twist of John Connor, almost every action piece except probably the last 15 minutes of the film. So it really left me pretty much empty. The biggest problem I had with this movie, aside from the fact that it's very confusing for no real reason, is the script. The dialogue is cringeworthy. And I have nothing against Emilia Clarke or Jai Courtney, but I really feel they were really miscast in this film. Neither one really worked in this film. They really felt like they were reading a script. They didn't feel like they were playing the characters. It felt like they were just, okay, this is the line that I'm supposed to say, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to try to emulate the characters. Like, Emilia Clarke didn't feel like she was making Sarah Connor her own character. It felt at times that she was trying to emulate Linda Hamilton, but it came out really poorly, sadly. And the same thing I can say about Jai Courtney. And I have nothing against Jai Courtney. I think he was okay in Jack Reacher. I hated him in Die Hard. And from what I heard, he was good in Unbroken, which I haven't seen yet. But in this movie, I really did not care for him. He was very disposable. He was very wooden. He didn't bring enough character to Kyle Reese. And Kyle Reese is supposed to be a skinny guy. Keep in mind that he's coming from a future where there's no food. And somehow he's this big buff guy who's probably been doing like weights for like 5 hours a day. And there's no way in the future that there's hundreds of protein shake where he can build up to that, muscle mass. So, there's a little nitpicks here and there, but hear me out. They could have done a good film. They could have done a good sequel. And instead, most of it felt like just random action scenes put together and a lot of exposition. Throughout the whole film, Arnold's character, whose name is Pops, is explaining things to the characters so we can kind of understand what's going on in this whole weird timeline. Because they go from one timeline to the next, and it feels cheap. There's one scene where they're in this bunker in 1984, and they have the time machine to go to 1997. In what world does that make sense? What technology they used? 1984 technology? Shit, if that's the case, they could have just marketed that and become rich. It doesn't work. I know it's a movie, but it doesn't really work. Everything felt really cheap. They killed off the T-1000 quickly like this. He was barely in it. The T-800 also really killed really quickly. And I don't really care about the guy who plays John Connor. He's another guy who is completely miscast in this film. I think he did good in the Planet of the Apes film from last year, but he did terrible in this film. And I don't blame them completely. I think it's the script. The script was the biggest problem. However, the only good thing I can praise about this film is Arnold. Arnold can play this character pretty much with his eyes closed. He's literally the Terminator. I cannot see anybody playing the Terminator other than Arnold Schwarzenegger. But sadly, most of the time when he's given lines, it's mostly for comedic relief, funny lines here and there, and the CGI in this movie was horrendous. The CGI in Terminator 2, that came out in 1992, it's a long time ago, looks way better than the CGI in this film from 2015. The physics in this film made no sense. There's a helicopter chase scene where the helicopter's going from one end to another, and the physics of it is impossible. It felt like they were inside the Matrix or something. It was really ridiculous. However, yes, if you turn off your brain and just sit down and watch it, you might enjoy it, but it doesn't really feel like a good Terminator film. So, I definitely would not recommend this movie. Please avoid it. I was actually awake last night at 3 a.m. I had already seen the film last week. I saw it when it first came out. And I was thinking, damn, this was just a terrible movie. I need to make a review. So, there you go, guys. Terminator Genesys. Avoid it. I have a new rating system that I'm going to be explaining. There's buy it on Blu-ray. That's the highest rating. Rent it. Avoid it. This is an avoid. Do not watch it. If you do want to watch it, I would just say wait for it to come out on TV or on Netflix, just for the hell of watching it, but not really a movie that I would consider including in a collection with your other Terminator films. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and do subscribe. Until next time.